Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Friday, is the 16th day of June 2023. I hope you're safe and healthy today. Happy Friday. Hope your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those people that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders who every day is oftentimes risking their lives to save lives. Blessings also upon those that pick up garbage to keep streets and sidewalks and towns and streets and cities clean and disease-free, and those also that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the people that are out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover the teenagers and children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia, the victims of pornography and child pornography, the victims also of prostitution and child prostitution, human trafficking and sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators of these things, double curses on the profiteers of these things, and double curses on those perverts that create the demand of which other perverts provide the supply. Finally, blessings on the homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children homeless in the United States of America, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Okay, so if you've noticed, I've been doing a lot more videos since the season ended. And the reason is because this is, in my view, this is an extremely important summer for the Knicks. As I said, they could run it back and, get the same team and continue. The problem with that is first of all, you have an extension that you want to offer to Emmanuel quickly. That doesn't take effect until the 24-25 season. But you have to do that. But that's not going to count against your cap this year. You have Obi Toppin, who would like to also get an extension, and he'd like to improve his value, who through his first 3 seasons had not had the opportunity to show really what he can do as a full-time power forward. He's been doing it in spurts, and every time he gets an opportunity to start at power forward and play starters minutes, he performs. And so he'd like to be able to do it, obviously, on a more consistent basis and get more money. That would be the object for that. Of course, the dilemma, of course, is Obi Toppin loves New York, and he would love to stay here. So there's a few questions. Not only that, as I mentioned multiple times, this summer is like Christmas in July because you have so much opportunity when you're the Knicks. And that's because of a combination of things, as I mentioned, the fact that their culture is now changed. They have a new management. They have a new coaching staff. They have put together a culture where everybody's on the same page. And they not only that, but the last 2 of the 3 seasons, they have been in the playoffs, including this past season, where, as you know, they won the first round and now they lost in the second round in 6 games to the eventual Eastern Conference champion, Miami Heat. So this is a situation where now, because of these successes and because of the new culture, players in general will be looking at New York as a possible destination that are free agents, unrestricted free agents, restricted free agent, sometimes neither, but they'll be looking at New York because the culture is stronger, because they have started winning on a consistent basis, because they just really might need one more piece to vault into the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay. Now, with all that in mind, that's what causes players to start looking at NBA teams in general. Now, this particular summer, you have a whole bunch of free agents hitting the market. We mentioned that, especially on the wing and at the power forward spot. You also have players teams that want to dump salary, okay, and start over, rebuilding. And so because of that combination, that synergy that's created creates an opportunity for the Knicks that may not come around for a while. Okay, it's not always, and this is the thing I'm finding I find it a little bit silly and stereotypical. Yes, you should have a superstar on your starting 5 if you want to win a championship. Detroit Pistons show you don't need to do that, but that's the exception rather than the rule. You'd like to have a superstar. That's one. But on the flip side, NBA has changed. Okay, so now your superstars are commanding $40 and $50 million a year. Some players are getting that money simply because they were all NBA and all-star. That doesn't mean they're a superstar. So a lot of guys are getting that money based on the league rules because of where either they were an all-star or an all-NBA player usually, or they accomplished certain statistics. That would cause them to get the type of for their contract. That would cause them to get max or super max contract like a Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal, and that puts them into a stratosphere of $40 and $50 million a year, or a Donovan Mitchell or a Damian Lillard, those type of guys. Now Donovan Mitchell even is not in the $40 million yet, but he's in that stratosphere with them. So you combine that with the restrictions, now the heavier restrictions placed on teams that go over not the cap, but the luxury tax cap and the super tax. And for example, Golden State has got some serious decisions to make. Their payroll is about $200 million, and the tax that they're going to pay is another $200 million. So they're talking about over $400 million. Actually way over 400. It could be over close to $500 million that they would have to pay out because of their luxury tax situation. Now they have won 4 championships, but there becomes a time when it starts to become diminishing returns. Okay. You got to start raising those ticket prices high. You got to start getting more revenue. You got to start doing something because you're paying out a lot of money. Also, you got to start reducing your team salary. So that's an extreme, but a lot of teams are in this situation. Now, then you have teams like we've been mentioning, the Washington Wizards, mostly because I'm interested in Kristaps Porzingis, and I get the feeling Kristaps Porzingis is interested in the Knicks. But that being the case, Washington is classic middling. Okay, a lot of guys were throwing that. A lot of people that love to be negative with the Knicks, but yet call themselves fans, were calling the Knicks middling last season. Some of you may not remember that. But Knicks are middling. They just middling. And it was very stupid and silly because the Knicks were climbing. Okay, and they have, if you look back on it now, you can see 2 playoff appearances in the last 3 years in the 3rd year of a rebuild. Okay, with a bunch of players, mostly that they drafted. Right, and so that's a rebuilding team coming from the bottom from the year before 17 wins to now getting 41, 37, 47 wins and then winning again in the first round of playoffs. That's a team on the upswing. So you're coming from the bottom and you're moving up. You got to come through the middle. Okay. Some people, it seemed to me at the time that they were trying to imply that you're supposed to go straight from the bottom to the top, which is very stupid and silly when you think about it. But a lot of people were bringing that narrative last year. But Washington is truly middling. Okay. Because when they had Bradley Beal with John Wall, they got, they made a run in the playoffs, but then they fell off and they've been kind of like fighting between out of the playoffs and the 8th seed or the play-in ever since. And so they just, when you're like that, you got to blow it up. You got to blow it up. You're not going anywhere. So they signed Bradley Beal to $251 million last year. That was a dumb move. And that's partially why they got new management now. Because rather than do that, they should have traded him last year. Okay, and got what they can for him and started from there. But now they got to trade him, and they don't want to add a whole bunch of salary to their team because they now need to seriously rebuild. See, the Nets, when the Nets traded Kyrie and KD, they still had enough talent, which they showed, to make the playoffs. And just really, if they can add some pieces around Mikal Bridges, they might be able to get back into the top 6, top 7 of the East and stay there. We're going to see this year, but that's possible. Washington is not that. They're really middling to bottom. So if you want to, get to the point where the Knicks are, you're going to have to build a culture, draft, develop, and keep your salary structure under control. That's the basic formula. That's what the Don's been doing. So, with that in mind, they have to trade Bradley Beal. As I mentioned to you yesterday, we did a video yesterday. I am not interested in Bradley Beal. In fact, let me just put it to you this way. Any player whose annual salary starts with a 4 or a 5, no thank you. Okay? No thank you. Okay? So, it's my view that the Don feels the same way. See, every summer, y'all, you get people going absolutely bonkers for any name that's out there. And this summer is going to be worse because of the number of names out there. So you have people with these big platforms pining. I'm expecting the Knicks to go aggressively after Bradley Beal. Really? So the Don, who has been fiscally responsible more than any other president of basketball operations in my 50 years of watching the Knicks, I've not seen a president of basketball operations more responsible fiscally than the Don. Steve Mills was responsible with the draft picks because the Knicks were giving them away like candy. But overall, the Don has been the most fiscally responsible front office person the Knicks have had in a long time. So, forever, in my view. So, that being the case, all of a sudden he's going to spend 47, 50, 53, and $57 million on a guy that has a no trade contract that you can't get rid of? That doesn't even make logical sense given his history. So everybody saying we expect the Knicks to aggressively go after him, I don't see it because it doesn't go with the narrative that has been built by the Don over the last 3 seasons. That's why I'm saying anybody that's okay, Zach LaVine, if somebody wants to do that, because Zach LaVine doesn't have a no trade contract, but still he's got 4 years, $215 million. That's 40 something million. That's basically, it's actually an even 41 million a year. I don't know. I'm not feeling that. See, so I don't think the Don is either. Which is why my focus has been on players like Kristaps Porzingis, Jeremy Grant, who the max he could get is 150 years over 5 for 5 years, which is $30 million a year. That's Portland's the only team that could offer him that if he was to stay there. So that $30 million range becomes more of value now because of guys out here making 40 and 50 million a year. With that in mind, talking about Kristaps Porzingis. If he decides to opt in, we assume he would opt out and become an unrestricted free agent. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me just verify this, but if I'm not mistaken, Kristaps Porzingis has until next week. Next week, I'm going to tell you the exact date right now. On this opt-in, he has until the 21st. His deadline is the 21st of June. Now, this is interesting. The draft is the 22nd of June. He has till the day before to decide to opt out or opt in. He has a player option right now. So he has to declare he's either opting out or opting in. Most players, now Kristaps Porzingis is going to be 28 in his prime. Most players opt out because the $36 million that he would get next season, he can easily get $90 million over 3 more seasons, right? He could get that. So, now you, instead of getting a guaranteed $36 million, you got a guaranteed $90 million just by opting out and signing a new deal. I know people was talking about he could get $180 million from Washington. The likelihood of Washington giving him $180 million is saying we're going to keep Bradley Beal. So if you believe that Washington's going to try to keep Bradley Beal, then they'll give Kristaps Porzingis $180 million. In other words, no, that's not going to happen. Not if you rebuild it. That, again, let's be logical here, Knicks Nation. if somebody's rebuilding, are they going to sign a player to $180 million? It don't make no sense, do it? Yet that's what people talking. So if he opts out, he's going to get a new team. And I'm hoping it's the Knicks. And I'm hoping, based on that last interview that I saw, plus his body language and the things he had been saying, and just watching him. I've been watching him since he left Dallas. And it appears to me, he would not mind a reunion. That's what I'm saying. I may be wrong, and I have been wrong before. I have no problem with being wrong. Some of y'all seem to think that people on these platforms are supposed to be right 100% of the time. I'm right a large percent of the time, but I'm wrong sometimes, and this could be one of them. But I'm really looking for KP because I really believe he can help. Now, the question today is, what if he opts in, right? So if he opts out, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. He can deal with any team, right? And Ian Begley said the other day the Knicks would not be able to sign him because they don't have the cap space. And I don't know, I love Ian Begley. He's one of my three wise men, but he's been a little off. Look, the Knicks right now are at $172 million of cap, of salary. Derrick Rose is $16 million, give it, a little bit less than that, but just round up $16 million, like 15.6, right? So you take the $16 million, because his contract would just fall off, right? So now you're at 146. Now you're under. So now you can now get Kristaps Porzingis. You just have to match salaries. You don't need to trade somebody to Washington necessarily, but you got Evan Fournier, $19 million. You can move Hartenstein, that's $27 million, and then you still got Isaiah Roby, $2 million. You can move that money, and that's close enough to sign Kristaps Porzingis to a 3-year, $90 million deal. Okay, so that could happen, and the Don don't have to make those moves. He can make those moves that night. But if Kristaps opts in, what is that saying? First of all, if he was to opt in and take the $36 million, he's betting on himself, okay? Because he's taking the guaranteed 36 instead of a guaranteed extension. Would he be looking to extend with Washington? No, not if they're rebuilding. Why would he be doing that? And why would they do that? So if he opts in, then what does it mean? Well, first, let's just say what I just said. He'd be betting on himself, okay? Secondly, whatever team acquires him has a contract that's basically 1 year, because he's betting on himself. So it's a 1 year prove-it deal, an expiring deal. And if you're Washington and you're trying to rebuild, what do you want? You want expiring money and draft capital. That's what you want. Okay? Kuzma just falls off. He's going to be unrestricted. You don't even need to bring him back. And in fact, at that 3 spot, you could put Denny Abdia or Corey Kispert at that 3 spot. Okay? You got that covered. You don't even need that now. You don't even need to worry about Kuzma. So you got that covered. If you can get draft capital, though, especially if you can get an additional pick in this draft, maybe you can get a power forward. You're rebuilding now. Okay? Maybe you can get Taylor Hendricks. You're rebuilding. Or you can, obtain the rights or something like that. So where was the Knicks coming? It would be a trade. You got all kind of options now. So the Knicks would be including Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, Isaiah Roby, and Isaiah Hartenstein. You say, well, why would the Wizards do that? That's all expiring money. That's what that is. All expiring money. Okay? And then the Knicks would have to throw in draft capital. How much? I don't know. Maybe 1-2 first rounders. And now you get Kristaps Porzingis. And what have you lost? Basically, from your rotation, you've lost Isaiah Hartenstein. Okay? And you bring in Kristaps. You bring Mitch Robb to the bench. You got Kristaps now at the 5. $36 million, which is going to expire, which is perfect because if it expires, you got room because let's go with the numbers. With the deal I just told you, the Knicks would be at $152 million with Kristaps Porzingis. That's $10 million below the luxury tax. Next season, the luxury tax number would rise by 10%. So it would go up to $178 million. The Knicks would be at 152. Okay? They would have to have re-signed Emmanuel quickly. They're probably going to trade either Obi or quickly, right? But let's assume I don't even want to mention, but they're going to re-sign one of them next season. It bothers me to talk about both of those kids because I love them on the Knicks and I'd love to see them on the Knicks. But their money's going to kick in the next year, right? So you got to figure it's around for quickly. He'd be the more expensive one. It's about $20 million a year. So now you're dealing with now $172 million. Well, not even that because Kristaps Porzingis money falls off next year. So you would be really, you would really be at 100. What? When you take 36 million from 152, you'd be at 116 million. Now you add 20 from IQ, and then you go ahead and add back 30 for Kristaps. You at 150. You still good. See? So what I'm saying is that if Kristaps opts in and still comes to the Knicks, it's actually better for the Knicks because now you create more space. And that, what I'm describing to you right now, you may not agree or don't agree with what I just described, and that's fine. But I will tell you this, that's a Don type move right there. That's a Don type move. Look what they would have. They would have their whole team, nobody making over 40 million. They would have a starting five of Kristaps Porzingis, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Quentin Grimes, and Brunson. They would have a bench of Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, and Josh Hart. Right? They would be really daggone good. Okay? And nobody over 40 million. Okay? Their highest paid player would be the 36 million, which is expiring. That's what I'm saying. See? So I'm going to say that D-Day, a big day, is June 21st. Because number one, Kristaps must make his decision by June 21st. Secondly, we're going to find out what the Wizards are going to do because I tend to believe if I'm the new management, just think of yourself, you're the new management with the Wizards. Y'all have not had a winning season and not even over 500 in 5 years. Okay, y'all have not been over 500 in 5 years. And you only made the playoffs or the play-in in that 5 years, with an under 500 record. So you're the classic purgatory. So you got to blow this thing up. If I'm blowing it up because I need to start with Abdia, Kirspert, Gafford, and let's go from there. They got a couple of other young pieces, but start with your young pieces and go from there. That's what I would do. I'm starting with Abdia, Johnny Davis. Like I said, I have questions about him, but he's still young. I'm starting with him, Corey Kispert. I'm starting with these young dudes. And I'm going to go for Isaiah Todd, Gafford. I'm going to go from there. Okay? I'm letting Kuzma just walk. And I'm going to get some draft capital for KP. And I'm going to try to get a lot of draft capital for Bradley Beal if I can. You might not, though. Because Bradley Beal is so expensive. You might be able to get 1-2 first rounds for him. But that's my plan. I'm wiping my books clean. So then I'm trying to get some draft picks this year to see if I could pick up some young players and start developing. Okay, I don't know who their coach is. I don't know if it's unsettled or they got somebody else. I don't know what the deal is. But if I'm them, I'm trying to get a development coach. Somebody like an Atkinson. I'm getting a development coach in there, and I want them to start from there. That's what I would do. Which is why I feel very strongly that Kristaps Porzingis is going to be available. I'm not thinking about Bradley Beal. As a matter of fact, I told y'all a couple months ago I wasn't really interested in Zach LaVine either. But I take Zach LaVine before Bradley Beal because he doesn't have a guaranteed deal. And Zach LaVine is in that $40 million range for the next 4 years versus Beal going close to 60 in that last year of his contract. So the contract of Beal is ridiculous. I'm not doing that. If I'm the Don, I can't even see them doing that, honestly. So I would be shocked. I really would be shocked if they decided to go that route. I would be surprised. I really would. So, yeah. So I can see. That's how much I'm tasting the availability of KP, and I'm tasting how much better he makes the Knicks. Now, yes, I would love to trade Julius Randle. But that's not, to me, the priority is making the Knicks better. And even with Ju, but if you add KP next to him, a stretch five, a legit stretch five that can protect the rim, legit protect the rim, like he's not the rebounder that Mitch Rob is, but he can legit protect the rim. And between him and Mitch Rob, we can get through an 82 game season. Okay, and we still got Jericho Sims, so we good, we good. Okay, so it's going to be very interesting. But later this summer, I'm kind of bracing because I'm feeling like a OB or IQ deal might come, and I'm not happy about that. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's a lot available, but the main issue with Obi is that the playing time. He's got to get playing time. Okay, he's not going to get it as long as Julius Randle's here. He's not going to get it. So, yeah, I don't know. But the type of move I just said is a Don type of move. You're getting a really good player that's going to elevate your team. You just made your team move forward, because as good as Isaiah Hartenstein has been, you're adding Mitchell Robinson to the second unit, and he don't mind doing that. And for $60 million, you paying him less than a lot of people paying their main bench players. Even IQ's gonna get more than that this year. He's gonna get more than that. So that's what I'm saying. You improved your team. You kept your fiscal responsibility to your team. You didn't overspend, and now you're ready to move forward. So if KP opts in, that's what I'm expecting. If he opts out, the Knicks got to make trades with other teams to get off the money and I'm sure they can. They can move on Fournier. They can move on Derrick Rose just drops off. They can get takers for Isaiah Hartenstein if they need that, and we can move on with life at that point. I'm not worried about that at all. So and Isaiah Roby, and I kind of always felt Roby was signed for this purpose, to be a piece like this for a trade. I never thought he would be a player for the Knicks. I'm still thinking he's going to be signed for a piece as a trade chip. That's what I'm thinking, for that $2 million. So anyway, that's where we're at. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anyway, y'all enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there. Happy Friday. Shalom.